Have you ever glanced up and noticed a lone crow perched silently on a power line or gliding effortlessly through the sky? At first glance, it may seem like an ordinary sight, a dark bird with a keen gaze and an unsettling presence. But what if I told you that this seemingly commonplace creature harbors a secret, a mystery so profound that it has left even modern scientists in awe? A mystery that science is only beginning to unravel, yet one that was revealed more than 14 centuries ago in the Qur'an. This isn't simply a tale of a bird, it's an exploration into the hidden wisdom woven into the very fabric of creation. It's a glimpse into the divine knowledge that often resides within the most overlooked of creatures. Crows have long intrigued humans, often regarded as omens or messengers, frequently tied to mystery or death. Yet in recent years, science has begun to uncover something far deeper, something startling and extraordinary. Recent studies have shown that crows are not just intelligent beings, but that they exhibit behaviors that mirror human emotions and social understanding. Observations of these birds in the wild reveal acts of mourning, the use of tools, long-term memory, social bonding, and even expressions of what can only be described as gratitude or compassion. How is it possible that such complex behaviors exist in an animal once dismissed as a mere scavenger? And yet the Quran had already recognized the crow's significance, giving it a central role in one of the most profound human narratives. While modern science looks through the lens of experimentation and observation, divine revelation had already pointed to truths that we are only now beginning to comprehend. This is not an attempt to set science against religion, but to marvel at the ways in which both can coexist, sometimes aligning in the most unexpected of ways. The crow stands as a perfect example, a creature whose significance is revealed both through the divine narrative and the rigorous study of science. Together, they shed light on the profound intricacies of life, death, and purpose. Imagine, for a moment, a group of crows gathered in silence. One of their own has passed. In most of the animal kingdom, death is ignored, concealed, or passed over with indifference. But in the case of crows, something remarkable happens. A single crow, often a family member, emits a sharp, piercing call, and suddenly crows begin to gather from nearby trees and rooftops. They circle the area and silently perch nearby. Observers have described the scene as eerily reverent. These birds, usually loud and disruptive, fall silent. They do not eat, they do not play, they simply gather and watch. Scientists have coined the term crow funerals to describe this behavior. While they do not mean it in the religious sense, the comparison is striking. At times, the crows even place twigs, grass, or small objects near the body of the deceased. They sit in stillness, gaze at the body, and wait. After a time, they disperse, each returning to its daily routine. But something has changed. Their mood, their energy, their vocalizations shift for a period after the gathering. What are we witnessing here? Is this mourning, an acknowledgement of death, or perhaps something else? A demonstration of social unity, a warning to others, or a ritual passed down through generations? Whatever the explanation, it blurs the line between instinct and understanding. Even more astonishing than the behavior itself is the reaction it evokes in us. There is something deeply human in their silence, in their stillness. It strikes a chord within us, reminding us of our own capacity for mourning. In one documented instance, researchers placed a dead crow in a public park and observed how the living crows reacted. Immediately, the living crows paused their activities, circled the area, and stood at a distance. At first, they called out loudly, but soon fell silent. Some refused to eat, even when food was available. Others perched nearby for hours, watching. This was not a fleeting reaction, it was focused, deliberate, and prolonged. When the body was removed, the behavior ceased, but not without leaving a profound impression on both the birds and the people observing them. This behavior raises unsettling questions. If crows can recognize the death of one of their own, do they also understand the meaning of life? If they respond with what appears to be grief, does that imply they experience loss? Can a creature with feathers and wings, one we typically dismiss as a scavenger, possess the capacity for something as profound as mourning? And if they can mourn, what else might they understand? To find the origins of this mystery, we must look back to the dawn of human history, a moment recorded not in scientific journals, but in the Qur'an. The first murder, the first instance of one human life being taken by another. The story of Cain and Abel, the sons of Prophet Adam. Driven by jealousy and rage, Cain struck down his brother, becoming the first to commit murder. But once the deed was done, Cain found himself lost. His hands were stained with blood, but it was his heart that trembled. At the time of the first murder, there were no traditions, no rituals for burial, no grave markers. Death was an unfamiliar and terrifying concept to Cain. What followed is one of the most profound lessons found in the Qur'an. In His infinite mercy and wisdom, Allah did not send a majestic angel from the skies or a divine voice from the heavens to guide Cain. Instead, He sent a humble crow. This simple bird began to scratch the earth with its claws and beak, demonstrating how to bury the lifeless body of Cain's brother. Cain watched in silence as the crow performed its task. It was in this moment that he realized the depth of his ignorance, understanding the importance of what had just been shown to him. The verse reads, "Then Allah sent a crow, digging in the ground to show him how to bury the corpse of his brother." Cain cried out, "Woe to me! Am I not even able to be like this crow and bury the body of my brother?" Then he was filled with regret. Surah Al-Ma'idah. This wasn't just a lesson in the mechanics of burial, it was a pivotal moment of awakening for Cain. Through the actions of a bird, a man was confronted with his own ignorance. Allah used one of His simplest creatures to impart a profound lesson about death, dignity, and responsibility. Consider the power of this moment. A human, created from clay, is taught by a bird how to honor the deceased. What does this reveal about the hidden wisdom embedded in creation? In that instant, the crow became more than just a bird. It became a symbol, a messenger, a guide. Its role, however, didn't end there. The Qur'an preserved this moment, not simply as a story, but as a sign, a reminder that guidance may come from the most unexpected sources, and that within even the most overlooked creatures, there may be invaluable lessons waiting to be uncovered. As modern science begins to unlock the mysteries of the crow's intelligence and social behaviors, we are reminded that Allah's wisdom is vast, often hidden in plain sight. Today we marvel at how crows use tools, solve complex problems, and even remember faces. Yet long before these discoveries were made, the Qur'an pointed to the crow as a teacher, not of survival instincts, but of moral responsibility. It taught not just about the actions of living beings, but about the conscience that guides humanity. In a way, this bird stands at the crossroads of revelation and research, one claw in sacred knowledge, the other in the realm of scientific exploration. Even in the modern world, the crow continues to surprise us. Researchers have placed masks on their faces while handling deceased crows, only to find that the birds remembered these masked faces for years. Every time they saw the same masks again, they reacted with alarm and aggression, demonstrating an ability to recall and recognize faces, a level of memory that was once thought to be beyond the capabilities of birds. In urban environments, crows have learned to recognize human patterns. They know which people are their sources of food and which people represent a threat. They observe, they adapt, and they remember. In one documented instance, a woman unknowingly passed near a crow's nest, posing no threat to the bird. Yet, the crow perceived her as a danger and swooped down aggressively. For years afterward, the crow continued to react to her presence, even calling other crows to join in its defensive stance. While this may sound alarming, it is also a powerful testament to their memory, loyalty, and intelligence. These are not creatures of random action. They are deliberate and intentional in their behavior. Crows are observant creatures, deeply attuned to their surroundings. What are we to make of all this? A bird capable of mourning, chosen by Allah to demonstrate the proper way to bury the dead, with a memory so sharp that it can recognize human faces for years. Such behaviors challenge our long-held assumptions about intelligence, emotion, and the boundaries we often draw between ourselves and other beings. The crow reminds us that we are not the only creatures who observe, feel, or remember. While many animals share urban spaces with humans, few have cultivated the kind of relationship that crows have with us. These birds do not simply adapt to our presence, they engage with us, learn from us, and, in some cases, even form emotional bonds. In a world where the divide between humans and animals often seems so stark, crows quietly blur that line. One of the most remarkable aspects of crow behavior is their capacity for gift-giving. Yes, gift-giving. Small tokens of recognition or gratitude offered not to other crows, but to humans. One heartwarming story involves a man who rescued a crow from a cat attack. He found the bird, injured and frightened, and instead of dismissing it or turning it away, he gently took it in, tended to its wounds, and eventually released it back into the wild. Most would assume that would be the end of the story. But for this crow, it was only the beginning. After being freed, the crow returned time and again. It started visiting the man's small shop daily, sometimes perching nearby, sometimes just observing from a distance. It didn't ask for food, nor did it show any fear. Instead, it displayed a quiet, almost reverent loyalty, as if remembering the one who had once saved its life. This wasn't an isolated case. In another city, an 8-year-old girl began feeding crows in her backyard. She would leave them small food scraps such as bits of bread or seeds. At first, the crows came simply to eat, but over time, something strange began to occur. In place of the food, she began to find small objects, beads, shiny buttons, pieces of glass, tiny trinkets, left in the exact spots where she had placed the food. These were not random items. Some were even color-matched to objects the girl liked, and one even had a small piece of plastic shaped like a heart. Scientists who observed similar behaviors have described this as reciprocal altruism, a way for animals to show gratitude or maintain social bonds. But from the outside, it feels like something more profound, something that resembles friendship. Then there's the extraordinary case of a shopkeeper named Stuart in Seattle. He had been feeding and caring for a family of crows for years. One day, he noticed something unusual on the ledge outside his shop. 2 small branches intertwined, adorned with corks, leaves, and what looked like carefully placed decorations. It wasn't just debris, it appeared arranged with thought and intention. It looked like a gift. When Stuart shared a photo of the object online, many were astonished, not only by the beauty of the arrangement, but by the apparent intention behind it. Moved to tears, Stuart said, "This isn't just a gift, this is art." Indeed, when you observe the intricate weaving and careful decoration of these objects, it's difficult to dispute their intentionality. Stories like these compel us to ask profound questions. Are crows capable of gratitude or attachment? Can they appreciate kindness and respond with creativity? In these subtle exchanges between species, something extraordinary is taking place. Crows, in their own enigmatic way, are teaching us about reciprocity, empathy, and the invisible connections that can bind even the most unlikely of companions. But beyond their emotional interactions, crows are also exceptional problem solvers. With the rise of urbanization and the spread of technology, crows have learned to navigate the human world in ways that continually astonish scientists. In some cities, they've been observed collecting hard-shelled nuts, particularly walnuts, and flying to traffic intersections. There, they wait for the light to turn red, then place the nuts in the path of oncoming cars. When the light turns green, vehicles run over the nuts, cracking the shells. Once the light turns red again and traffic stops, the crow calmly walks into the street and retrieves the now cracked nut. Consider the complexity of this behavior. It requires an understanding of timing, cause and effect, risk assessment, and learning through observation. This isn't random or accidental, it's a deliberate strategy. In places like Japan, this behavior has been studied and documented multiple times. It not only highlights their intelligence, but also their remarkable ability to interact with human systems. It seems that crows are observing us more closely than we realize. They don't merely survive in human environments, they thrive. Another fascinating study involved a new Caledonian crow tasked with retrieving a small treat from the bottom of a transparent tube. Initially, the crow struggled without success, but then something remarkable occurred. The crow bent the wire provided into a hook, using nearby surfaces, and then used this newly fashioned tool to lift the treat out of the tube. This wasn't a random trial and error, it was a planned and purposeful action. The crow understood what was needed and reshaped its environment to achieve it. What's even more impressive is that crows don't have an instinctual ability to make hooks. They had to learn this behavior, much like a child learns to use a spoon or twist off a bottle cap. The level of intelligence required here is comparable to that of primates. In fact, in certain problem-solving tests, crows have outperformed chimpanzees. While their brains may be small, their cognitive abilities are vast. However, not all of a crow's intelligence is strictly functional. Sometimes they engage in behavior that seems to have no purpose other than enjoyment. In snowy regions, crows have been seen repeatedly flying to rooftops, grabbing small objects or chunks of ice and sliding down as if they were on a playground. They repeat the behavior over and over, as children do when they play on a slide. Scientists struggle to define this behavior purely in survival terms. It seems to be amusement for amusement's sake, joy expressed through wings and snow. The intelligence within crow communities is equally remarkable. When a baby crow is abandoned or orphaned, it doesn't face death alone. The flock steps in with other adult crows, sometimes completely unrelated, taking turns to feed, groom, and protect the chick. This is a powerful example of communal care, echoing deeply with human values of solidarity and compassion. And if that's not astonishing enough, consider this. Crows can live for 30, even 40 years in the wild. Over that time, they form lasting social bonds and teach their young not only how to survive, but how to interact with the world around them, including with humans. Parents show their offspring who to trust and who to avoid. If a human has treated them kindly, they pass that knowledge down to their young. If a human has harmed them, they won't forget. One telling study tested how crows react to perceived threats using masks. Scientists wore distinctive masks while handling dead crows in a controlled area. When those masked individuals walked through the area again, days or even weeks later, crows erupted in alarm. They remembered not only the individual who had harmed them, but also passed on the information to others in their community. Entire flocks responded defensively, even though only a few crows had witnessed the original event. This form of social transmission, teaching others through observation and memory, was once thought to be exclusive to humans and a select few, higher mammals. But once again, crows are challenging these boundaries. They aren't merely reacting to threats, they are learning, remembering, and educating their community. Yet despite all this complexity, we continue to overlook them. Perhaps it's because their black feathers and piercing eyes don't align with our traditional notions of beauty, or perhaps it's because they are so familiar, so commonplace, but within their everyday presence lies a stunning reflection of divine design. Their intelligence, loyalty, and creativity all speak to a deeper reality, one where even the humblest creatures carry signs of the Creator's wisdom. In moments when they perform actions that resemble ours, burying their dead, mourning together, offering gifts, playing, and remembering faces, we are forced to pause and reconsider what truly separates us from them. Is it language, emotion, morality? Or are these qualities more widely shared across creation than we ever imagined? Returning again to their mysterious funeral rituals, researchers have documented crows placing small objects, leaves, twigs, shiny items, next to the bodies of deceased crows. Why they do this remains uncertain. It's not for nutrition nor for protection. It seems to be something symbolic, reverent, and reflective of a pattern that transcends human tradition. Perhaps this brings us full circle, back to the first time a human being ever faced the weight of death, the burial of Abel, the son of Adam. A moment so raw and primal, yet filled with profound guidance. A moment where Allah did not send an angel or prophet to deliver the lesson, but a raven. This simple creature scratched the earth, burying a body, and through that act offered a message to all of humanity. From that moment on, the act of burial became a sacred duty, one that we still perform today. A tradition that began not with a scholar or sage, but with a crow. And here we are, centuries later, watching these birds perform similar rituals, marveling at their intelligence, documenting their memories, and wondering how such wisdom can be contained within wings and feathers. The crow, long misunderstood, has emerged as one of the most intelligent and emotionally complex creatures on Earth. It carries a legacy shaped by divine guidance and affirmed by scientific discovery. Its story is not just one of feathers and instinct, but of purpose, connection, and the timeless echoes of truth.